on Serial. So Serial is a narrative podcast. This particular season out in 2021, and the podcast details the accusations of election fraud toward the Bladen County Improvement Association, otherwise known as PAC. The PAC, which is primarily focused on, candidates that represent the African American vote and stance in North Carolina. And like I said, it's a voting advocacy group targeted towards African Americans and or Democrats. The PAC has influenced numerous elections in Bladen County, leading their Republican counterparts to accuse them of cheating. So, like I said, the PAC is very active in the voting community, specifically with minorities, in a way that has influenced several of the several of the elections that have taken place since their inception. So much so that the Republicans think that they're cheating. And the host of it is Zoe Chase. So why the jealousy? The PAC endorsed Democratic candidates, and they're very strong in their convictions. So they go around asking people. They stop at like supermarkets and stuff like that, and they'll show you like a version of what their ballot would look like and the candidates that they support, and they more so just try to point you towards who to vote for rather than actually like controlling who you vote for. The Republicans think that this is pushy and aggressive, so they actively and openly accuse them of voter fraud. This isn't true though. As I said, like PAC, they're more so just always spreading information and stuff, spreading agendas really more so, and they want as many people to vote for as many as like-minded candidates that they support as they can. So that's really like their goal. The Republicans are obviously jealous of this because the PAC's influence has affected numerous elections, and that's elections where they were pretty strong in their convictions about Republican candidates. So they feel like their time and money has been wasted, so they start to develop a plan of their own to combat the PAC. So people within the community who were not registered to vote noticed that votes were cast with their names anyway. And Republican leaders accused the PAC of doing this, which they didn't. It was actually the Republicans doing this. The PAC was more so just volunteering their time at these retirement homes and assisting in voting. They weren't filling voting forms out like the Republicans were. That's all they were doing. Whereas the Republicans, as I said, they were openly just like getting empty forms and filling out names of people in town, and those people had no intentions of voting, so they essentially just used them as they essentially just filled the ballot with people that they supported because they felt as though the PAC was doing that same method, which they weren't. So because of all the accusations that piled up against the PAC, a lot of investigations were launched on elections in which they had candidates that they supported. So conversely, the PAC isn't completely like beloved by everyone. It has detractors outside of just its Republican counterparts. There are people of color who feel like they're excluded by PAC because if their interests aren't 100% aligned with PAC, they feel as though they're like discouraged to vote for anyone outside of who the PAC supports. They feel kind of bullied in a way. And of course, there are black candidates who are outside of the PAC, and they feel as though because they're juxtaposed to the PAC, that there has to be dissension. There has to be like just beef and unnecessary like negative energy, and they feel that if you're not in the PAC, you're not supported by the PAC, that they feel like you're more so just like a pawn of white people, that you can't have any white donors or anything like that towards your cause, towards your campaigning, or yeah, like I said, you're considered to be in their pocket. So that obviously creates some tension and animosity between PAC and other minority voters and candidates outside of the PAC. There's also a divide between the new and older generations within Bladen County of colored people, because the old school see it one way. They want probably as much control as influence over the elections as they can get, whereas the new generations more so like, we don't have to, all just put all of them in one basket when it comes to minority candidates anymore. So the culmination of the show sees the race for county commissioner between two black candidates. This is something that you'd think the PAC would have liked, but they're against it because, like I said, they felt as though if all the black votes and minority votes weren't aligned, then it diluted the election and made it easier for Republicans to win. So then ended up being Michael Cogdell, who is a member of the PAC, versus Mark Gillespie, a black candidate who I believe was the nephew of a previous county commissioner. And he was also backed by Republicans, and he ended up winning the race. But despite this, the PAC accused it of being the PAC accused Gillespie of splitting the black vote. But he didn't just have the black vote; he had the young vote, he had the old vote, he had the white vote, he had the black vote, of course, he had the Democratic vote, and he had the Republican vote. Whereas the PAC more so just focuses on like old, black, and Democratic votes. His votes were a lot more diverse by far. And instead of embracing that, like I said, there were two black candidates. Although they were opposing each other, there were two black candidates in the finals. The PAC felt cheated, and Gillespie, who was pretty consistent about saying that like he just wants everyone to be equal. He doesn't have a dog in any race. Like, if you're white and you're a bad person, then you're subject to the law, and if you're black and you're a bad person, you're subject to the law. He just wants complete, like, right down the middle, just fairness for everyone. He doesn't really see everything as black and white. So this is where like the fall of the PAC starts. It starts to get divisive and split. Like, people start splitting off into their own factions within the PAC. Some Democratic candidates leave and stop supporting the PAC, so obviously they're losing like legitimacy. There are hearings had over the elections that the PAC participated in where they supported candidates, and I don't know, something sketchy just happened. So a lot of those elections were either thrown out or contested, of course. Like I said, division. There are people splitting within the PAC because they can't even agree with themselves now, and there's a loss of a lot of black votes. Black votes aren't like singularly given to the PAC anymore. It's a lot more diverse and spread out for sure. And community members question whether the PAC is even still necessary, since, like I said, they had those two black candidates. So obviously the community's perception of whether or not someone of a different skin color can do the job is changing. So what was accomplished? Not a lot, honestly. Since the inception of the PAC, voting numbers have not changed. I believe when I was listening to the podcast, they said they're actually approximately the same as to what it was like 40 years ago when the PAC started, which is crazy. Bladen County remains pretty fractured, which in the South you're always going to have stuff like that, so I understand that. Drama has superseded the elections. Like I said, they're getting tossed into a lot of hearings and stuff like that. A lot of their elections are being overturned and stuff like that. There's always it just seems like some chicanery going on. It splits the black vote, so which obviously isn't good. I'm not saying everyone has to vote for the same person, but I am an African American man, so that's more so my perspective on it. That yeah, when you're in a town so like historically conservative and stuff like that, if everyone's not aligned, of course it's gonna fracture things. So yeah, and then there's, like I said, there's just controversy that surrounds every like election in Bladen County, it seems like, and that the season that we're discussing over cereal, this wasn't like the only year that some type of weird thing has happened involving Bladen County's elections. And here are my sources. Thank you.